Hi, everyone. Thanks for this episode of Nick Egan Times. In this episode, we have an amazing guest. We have the multi-talented Marcia Kimpton. Marcia is an incredible filmmaker, director, producer, writer, actress, and travel expert. Marcia has created an amazing film, An American Abroad, which is about to be released very soon. Marcia also has launched an impressive travel app, Kimpton Travels and Film, plus has a late night show called Bright Lights Late Night. Welcome to the multi-talented Marcia, and thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Nicholas. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to interview you. All right, let's jump straight into it. Take us back. Tell us about your background growing up and everything relating to that.
Well, I think I knew at 12 years old I wanted to be on camera, and I was one of those kids that was always producing, the parade or the fair, and then I became president of my class and I was producing. I didn't know what a producer was until I got to Indiana University, and Jane, oh my God, why am I going blank on the name? The Today Show. Oh my God, today, since I think it's allergies, I am going complete blank. Jane Pauley. So Jane Pauley came to Indiana University because I brought her because I was the head of lectures. And she turned to me and said, "You know, you're a producer. And all I want to do is be on camera like Jane Pauley was at the Today Show." And I said, "No, no, no. I want to be, not just an actress, but a host, a late night host." Because at that time, was David Letterman, and I just loved him and Johnny Carson. So I found out I was naturally born a producer. I organized things, and really, honestly, when I went to LA, I got a offer at the Today Show to be a production assistant in New York, and New York was my favorite city, but 16,000 wasn't going to cut it. So I went to LA to be a producer and try to get on camera, and that has been my mission ever since. And I've been producing and being on camera mostly for my own projects, but I finally got on TV in San Francisco on the Morning Fox show, was an entertainment reporter, but I really did comedy because I knew I wanted to do a late night show. So every Friday they would have what's going on this weekend with Marcia, and I would create it into a comedy event and something funny. And then I got my own late night show with Budweiser sponsoring it on the ABC. I went from Fox to ABC, and then I met everybody in Hollywood. And I kind of had an agent before that. I had a bidding war with NBC and Fox that nobody knows about. And Friends got the show. I didn't get the show that I had. But what happened then was that I met somebody in Hollywood, and they said a woman's not ready to be a late night host. And I'll really date myself when I say 1998. And so I went through a spiritual crisis, and I said, "It's over with." And Hollywood just looks at your age and thinks you're old. And after 4 or 5 years of studying Emanuel Swedenborg, a Christian mystic, and Buddhism, I came to the understanding that age meant nothing. You do feel like you're getting older at times, but really it was the internal self that I had to work on. So I started with tons of meditation and yoga, and I wrote I would say it'd be my fourth movie, but my first movie that got distributed called Bardo Blues. And right now, coming up October 3rd, the second distributed movie called American Abroad. And Bardo Blues was a drama based on this spiritual crisis and my relationship with my brother. And then American Abroad is based on my love of travel, and it's about a travel reporter that goes around to 6 countries and is dating a younger man, and it's completely a comedy. So that is I not the short version, but hopefully I said it quick enough how I got here.
Well, that's incredible, and you really articulated that well. Give us more context actually about your incredible film, An American Abroad, and I guess how long it's taken and the background behind it completely.
Well, it was post-COVID, and we all were sitting around, or well, during COVID, and I decided to write this because I wanted to be productive. And it really was a comedy TV series, 9-part TV series that I did with the character Arnold. His name is Brian Gross, and he rewrote them as a project, and just we just thought we could sell it. And between the writer's crisis and COVID, it's still an amazing experience. We started in Turkey, Cappadocia, Istanbul, then we went on to Greece, Hydra, Patmos, then we went on to Burgundy, France, my favorite place in France, and then we went to Portugal, and then we got stopped because the Omicron came in South Africa. So we had to push that back 4 months. And then we did an African safari. We did everything that I dreamed in travel on camera. And then I took from all my relationships with men. I'm divorced, I've been married and have a child, fortunately, but usually they're younger. And I kind of compiled this one guy. The guy Arnold is way more conservative than the guys I usually date. But because I'm a little bit wilder and crazier, the character is an extension of me, but I'm not well, I am and I'm not, but you can't produce a show and be that wild and crazy as the character is. But basically, it's based on real life situations. And we couldn't sell the 9-part TV series because they always want to have input. And I'm so proud of it. And I really loved what we did. So I said, okay, I'm going to repurpose it. And so that's probably the only thing that is hard for me in launching the film. It doesn't have a perfect, 3-act natural arc, but it's very much like a French movie meets Woody Allen because Woody Allen movies were always just about relationships and things that are happening and the neuroses of just being a human. So I took from my love of, 80s Woody Allen's films. And then my study of French film is always, you're just kind of living life and you don't know where it's going to end up. And that's what the movie is. It's basically the best of this 9-part series, and it takes you to all these countries along with Amsterdam, Netherlands. And it's a dream come true because I've shown it now at the London Rolling Film Festival as well as the Croatian Film Festival and then in my hometown of Wilmette, just north of Chicago. And people are hysterically laughing. And so if you can bring joy and laughter in the world, for me, I've reached my goal.
You've done amazing. Fantastic. It's incredible. Um,
Did you see it? Did you have a chance to see
I
it?
haven't seen it yet. I'm waiting for the release, so I'll be watching it
Okay,
then.
okay.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
excited.
well,
And
October 3rd. And we're working hard to get it in the UK.
you really G'd it up too, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of hype behind it. So it's very exciting. Okay. Tell me about your travel app too. Kimpton Travels and Film as well.
Well, I grew up in a traveling family. My parents was divorced, and my dad created Kimpton Hotels in the 80s. And both sets loved to travel, especially to Europe. So I grew up just with two sets of parents that just loved traveling, and I inherently love traveling. I started at a very young age with both families. So by the time, again, this is a result of COVID, you're sitting around and you're thinking about all the things that you wished you could have or wished you could do. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to compile my knowledge of travel because I have done so much. I've been to over 40 countries. I think it's now 50 now, but I haven't
Wow.
counted. So I put a lot of it, my tips of hotels and ideas on there. And the idea is to have a film for every country. When you go in, you see a film that, is from, let's just say the Leonard Cohen documentary, that it's not necessarily a Greek film, but he wrote a lot of his songs in Hydra, Greece, where we filmed. And then the other part of it is all these films that I just love. 50% of them you'll know, and the other 50 you won't, because I just find that it's very difficult. Honestly, every night I'm either, Amazon or Netflix or Hulu. I'm just struggling to find things that aren't violent and are entertaining. And a lot of the films I do recommend are foreign films because it seems like the Americans are not making as many good films, unfortunately, or they're just too violent, and I can't handle the violence.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing, and that's great insights. Um,
And it's only $7.99 for 1 year. So you get a lot of films and a lot of travel recommendations.
yeah, definitely. It's incredible. Um, with your dad, speaking of him, did you ever feel pressure growing up? Obviously, he was very high profile and with the hotels and everything that's been significant. Did you ever feel pressure having him as your father growing up?
I didn't because it really started when I was 20 and I was such an ambitious young kid. I'm now completely convinced, love or no love. I mean, I was very much loved, but I didn't come from a functional family. I don't know how many people do, maybe today, but not back then. So I was just such an ambitious kid at a young age. I was just producing little events all the time. So really, when I saw him make the hotel company, you'd hear him talk about his dream, and he was in finance, so he did really well. But it was just it was just so interesting because I knew I wanted to be in TV and film at a young age, and I was just doing everything to make that happen. So it never felt like, oh, dad's doing this. I was just as ambitious, if honestly, more ambitious. So that wasn't it. But what was really wild is when I would visit him in San Francisco, because I mostly didn't grow. He left when we were 8 to San Francisco, and I grew up north of Chicago. And you come in town and you just eat dinner, and then all of a sudden you knew you were the movie star. I mean, the way he was in San Francisco when people would come up to him, you think it was Robert Redford who just passed, one of my favorite all-time actors, because he was so legendary in the innovation of boutique hotels. At that time, it was white walls. It was either the Hilton or the Hyatt or like a Motel 6 or Holiday Inn. Now we take it for granted, but he was so innovative in style. He was very much an artist hidden, but he was a businessman. So you'd find these old, really cool buildings in San Francisco, and he'd circle because he didn't have a lot of money. I mean, he had his own money, but he had gotten all these personal investors because nobody was really going to invest in a guy doing hotels and making them look pretty and not offering room service. And he made all the hotels $100. Well, the rest is history, right? So he did that and then started going across the United States. And I really admired his work ethic and how creative he was. Uh, was he the best dad? He wasn't always around, which often happens with very ambitious people and successful people. I was around for my daughter. I made a decision about that because of growing up with a father like that. But I was really proud. I have to be honest, everywhere I would go, if the name became kind of like hotel royalty, and it also became, he was such a nice guy. He was so good to the bellman, to the person you never saw. And he was such a quality human being in that way that I just loved hearing from people. One, I love the hotels, and then two, your dad was great. But he passed early, not when he was 65 in 2001 of cancer, unfortunately. And I think he would just be blown away because he really wanted all the hotels in Europe. And now they're spreading all across Europe and Asia. And I think there's going to be one now in Bali. Now, Intercontinental Hotel Group, bought it. So we're not affiliated. But this last time I decided, so I hardly stay at the Kimpton hotels because one guy said, "How do you spell your name?" And I finally was like, "Could you look on the plaque?" I mean, you got to be kidding me. But this time I emailed the London Fitzroy because I was there for the London Film Festival, and I got a suite I have never gotten ever before. I mean, it was half a floor, champagne sitting there, and they said Kimpton Royalty. And I was like, now Dad must have called the GM or something from above, but that felt really special. But most of the time, I don't stay there because it doesn't seem to mean anything to them. So.
Oh, great. Thank you for sharing. Um, when you look back, you've obviously done a lot. What would you want your legacy to be?
Putting great quality content out there. And that could start, with the app to both the movies that are distributed, for the movies that I hope to direct and I have written. I just wrote a film called Tanzan, and it's about the elephant-human conflict. And it's also an updated version of Out of Africa. So it's got a biracial love story, but it also talks about animal conservation. So I want to do films, and I would love my legacy to be that she put great content out there that was either uplifting or I learned something spiritual about it or it made the world better. And deep down inside, I don't know how to change Hollywood, but I'd love a portion of all the films to go back in to the cause that is related to the film. Like Bardo Blues, once we make a profit, and we haven't, it's so hard with independent films, but to all of it to go, we deal with the topic of mental illness and sex slavery. So I would like a portion of every film to always go back to helping the cause, like the elephant human conflict. So that would ultimately doing good content that makes you think and makes the world better. That would be my legacy, and obviously being a good parent. So
That's impressive. What has been the best piece of advice you've ever received?
not to take things personally. So you get a lot of rejection in Hollywood, and it's hard to not take, it's your art. You're putting everything on the line. It's hard to not take it personally. It's a business. And not all those people making the decisions are right because, I'm really proud of the film. And even if it's not perfect, on some level, it's perfect in its imperfections. And that's what an artist does. I would say, don't value yourself on money because I've been a starving artist most of my life. I only recently got money because of my dad's legacy. So I would say not the advice that don't base yourself on money and don't base yourself on success because I had to really, in my spiritual crisis, really decide who I am and how I measure myself in the world because in Hollywood, once you're an older woman, you're gone. So I had to, not just through my yoga, meditation, and great health, find the light within. I had to value myself differently than how Hollywood or a man or anybody would value me. And so when I really learned from a lot of spiritual teachers, and I went around the world to different spiritual temples and churches, because I'm such a spiritual person. And I would hear over and over again, really the only way to measure yourself is about your relationship with God and the amount of light that you're radiating. It doesn't make a difference how much money, it doesn't make a difference if anybody sees your movie, even if you want to. It doesn't make a difference what you actually accomplish, as much as I like accomplishing things. What really matters is how you find the peace within so you could bring the peace out. And it sounds so cliche, but that's really been my journey for most of my life, and that's the advice I have gotten and I'd like to give other people.
Yeah, wonderful. And you can see your light shines bright. You radiate, like you got a high frequency and you vibe really well. Um,
Thank
what would be
you.
what would be the best piece of advice you would tell a young Marsha, someone similar, I guess, to you growing up, that was incredibly ambitious? What would you tell them?
Well, I had so much suffering. I know I was so lucky to grow up with that name and some money eventually. And I had a great education. I just suffered so much at the helm of rejection in Hollywood. And it's not necessarily rejection of men. I was lucky being pretty, I could attract a man, but it wasn't about a man. I don't still, and I this sounds kind of sad. I don't think a man has still completely seen me for who I am. So what was interesting, it was that I spent so much of my life, like most people, expecting the outside to give me validation. And when I would get rejected or, my divorce or a breakup with another man, I was devastated. And I'm not saying that I wouldn't have sad days now, but what happened, that younger self was so thought she was going to be Julia Roberts. I mean, there was just no doubt I was going to be Julia Roberts, and I was going to be the first big female director in Hollywood, and I was going to be known, for the best comedy like Jennifer Aniston. And none of that happened. And I wrote a book called Escaping the Hollywood Bardo, and it's all about the spiritual journey. So that younger self suffered endlessly because she wanted to be validated by the outside world. And I think because I didn't, really, really today I'm happier than most people. And I'm not saying money doesn't make it easier, but it doesn't make you happy. And I think the only way one finds happiness is to validate themselves inside. So I wish I hadn't wasted so many years being so sad and depressed. But I inherited the chemical, my dad suffered from depression and my brother did too. And I think a little bit my sister. So we had a gene of chemical imbalance and I medicated through alcohol and marijuana for years. But it was when I was about, after my divorce and this crisis and coming off TV, I always believed in God, but when I found hot yoga and meditation, everything changed. And I have to say, it's happiness is relative and the world is kind of dark now. I mean, it really feels it. That I'm much happier than most people I encounter, and I'm not saying I'm better. I just know that the suffering led to this inner happiness and finding it through yoga, meditation, and God. And if I hadn't been rejected all those times and I hadn't reached the depths of hell that I had, maybe I wouldn't be as happy as I am today. I don't know, but all I know is I want to inspire anybody, well, never to take their life because I thought about that, and that is one of the themes in the movie Bardo Blues. But more importantly, every day that you connect to your higher self or the divine or God, and if you find yoga and meditation, you will find happiness. So.
Thank you. Thanks. It's great advice, and thank you for sharing those insights. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
That's such a wild thing to say. Oh God, what is the best compliment? Okay, you're a great artist. I love being an artist, and it's very hard to do great art. And I think Bardo Blues really was, it's on Amazon, is a reflection of my best work and most spiritual. And even though they're, like I said, we're doing a 9-part series into a comedy movie. The people that have seen it so far have admired the artistry. So that really, to me, it makes me feel so good. But again, I was just talking about the outside versus the inside. So I can't say that isn't. It's funny. I feel like a hypocrite when you ask me that. I can't say that it doesn't feel great when someone says, they love my screenplay. Like today at a meeting, they loved my screenplay or they love my movie. So
I get it. I get
a
it.
conundrum. Put
Yeah.
me in.
Where is your favorite places to travel? If you could list three, give three places you could travel to that your favorite, what would they be?
Well, I think for everybody, if you want to do something really dramatically different, and I've gone twice, is Bhutan. And that's between Nepal, China, and India. And the reason why, I mean, I'm sitting here in Lake Tahoe right now. It's, the Himalayas are just as beautiful as the Sierra Nevadas or the Rockies or, the Swiss Alps or the French Alps. So it's not just about the mountains are gorgeous. No one likes flying in. It's one of the, if you see on YouTube, it's one of the steepest descents ever. So that's not a fun experience. That's the last time I had a panic attack. It was about 20 years ago, but I just went recently, 3 years ago. But the reason why Bhutan is so spectacular is all the architecture, all the dress, and the feeling is really, they say we're trying to market gross national happiness. You really do feel this sense of peace. So I absolutely, if the money, it costs you $200 a day before you even spend for anything else because they're trying to keep the tourists out. But I think Bhutan is probably one of my most favorite places. I do love safari, and I do know that there are places that you don't have to pay expensive places to go on safari that are still safe. So I think everybody, if they can save up their money, just wants to go out in nature to be with the animals. And again, if you really want to do that, there's an incredible group that I've donated money called the Blue Sky Foundation. And basically, you go out and it's no luxury, but you go out and help rescue animals that are having problems, that have been injured or they need to tag and that kind of thing. So if you really want to get to Africa, you can go there. There's so many other places. Like I'll never forget when I went to Laos, but I wouldn't put that on the top of my list. I would put, even though it's quite touristy, but I love it, Marrakesh. I think Marrakesh, Morocco, for the dollar, the value, and for the exotic, and for the hotels and the food and the people. I love, love, love Marrakesh. My favorite country to visit that I visited the most in my entire life is France, but people know about France, so I prefer saying some of these places.
Great, that's really, really great. Um, have you been to Kenya? Obviously, you've done safaris. Tell me
Yeah,
about
yeah.
Kenya. Tell me about Kenya.
So I went to Kenya twice. One recently, I think 2014, after the Westerfield Mall horrible bombing. So everything was 50% off and nobody was there, and it was really nice. It was tragic. And then I went, God, when I was 24, at the same place called Little Governor's Camp, and it actually, for its value and safari, it's amazing. And I will say that Kenya, like Tanzania, which I love. Just has so many animals. Sometimes you have too many Jeeps around you because they're all clicking. Well, it used to be clicking on the now it's just your phone. But I just recently went to Namibia, which is right next to South Africa, and Zimbabwe this year because I hadn't been there, and I've been to South Africa many, many times. And I think for if you're going on safari, you really want to go to a place where you know that they have a good hospital structure because some people are very nervous about going on safari. So I think they have the best hospital structure and the most Western more than Kenya. But I've never, knock on wood, ever had a problem. I've also done Botswana. What else am I missing? I've been on safari 13 times. That's how much I
Wow.
love it. But I've been to a lot of the countries, and I would say Kenya or Tanzania. If you're doing first time, you got to do it. There are more affordable safaris on South Africa, maybe Kenya, but you see more animals in Kenya and Tanzania. It sounds like you've been there.
No, I'm really, really fascinated. I'm actually planning on going to Kenya soon. So yeah.
Yeah, and I also would not randomly go out ever off camp or at night. I mean, I don't know why anybody would ever do that. But these camps are super safe and they're guarded and usually fly small little planes that don't cost that much. And, you know, I really feel it's just super safe and it's the most mind-blowing experience you can have because you're first off, man came from Africa. So all of a sudden you're back in the area where man is rooted, and you see animals just naturally in their habitat, and you could just sit there for days. And you're also so sorry, I don't know how to turn off the text. You can sit there, and you're so off the grid, and you don't realize how much the Wi-Fi and everything is wiring you. You yes, when you go in nature, I can go right up the street on a hike and not feel it, right? But there is nothing like going on safari. Something actually shifts in you. I mean, if I'm lucky enough for the rest of my life, I'll go once a year. You really shift in a mindset that only an African safari can give you.
Mind blowing. What has been, when you look back, a standout moment, a pinch me moment where you're like, wow, this has happened?
Oh, so many. Okay, so there's two I'm going to mention. I'm flying into Bhutan, and they don't have radar. This is 2000 and God, nine? Is that right? And I'm a single mother. My daughter's with her father, but I think I'm gonna die. They stop the plane in Calcutta and they say, I don't know they don't have radar until this moment. Okay. Now most
Wow.
people are going to Bhutan, but they're like, oh, the clouds are coming into the Himalayas. We're gonna have to wait here in Calcutta. And I go into a full panic attack. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna die. And I had heard it was the steepest descent. And I was like, no radar? I had never been on a plane that was gonna land in the middle of the Himalayas with no radar. Now they do, by the way. Okay. I look across the whole plane, everybody's white. There's one Bhutanese man. I go up to him and I go, I'm having a full-on panic attack. You must have flown into Bhutan many times because you look Bhutanese. Could you calm me down? And he calms me down. So he checks on me. So we go. I'm gonna get off in Calcutta until I talk to him. I sit down. I'm reading my book about this English teacher who is teaching this Bhutanese man. He comes up to check on me. He goes, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm doing good." He goes, "Oh, by the way, that book is about me." I said, "What?" He said, "Open the front. I gave you my card for when you're in Bhutan. His name is Seiwan Dendap. You open the book and it says dedicated to Seiwan Dendap." I said, "What?"
Wow.
I know, it gets even better. So I go, he goes, "Yeah, that was my ex-wife. She wrote the whole book about me and Bhutan and everything." And I said, "Wow, this is the only book I got recommended." Because again, like I said, back in 2009, only 1998, they had tourists come in. So it was not a big touristy place, right? Then I said, "Oh my God, you're the lead actor in Travelers and Magician. It's one of my favorite movies ever. It's shot in Bhutan." And he goes, "Yeah."
Wow.
He brought all of the news channels and developed news in, I don't know if developing news anymore is good, but He definitely developed news, and we have been friends. We had a beautiful, I didn't expect this, we had a beautiful romance. We have been friends ever since. And it was the wildest thing. I landed, and my guide from the Amman Hotel said, he said goodbye. He said, "You realize that's the most famous person next to the royal family?" And I said, "You got to be kidding." Only because I had a panic attack. And it was such a great example of, if you let, first off, I was scared. I calmed myself down with him. But how life in travel always has these miraculous events. I travel alone a lot. And so there's constantly, I'm getting guides and I'm having some kind of miraculous, amazing experience happen. I had another one, but that was long enough. So
No, that's sensational. Thank you for sharing. And if you're 18 again and you could change anything, it can be personally or professionally, what would you change?
if I was what?
If you were 18 again and you could change anything, it could be personally or professionally, what would you change?
God, I can't even hardly answer that. God, because I'm really proud of all the work I have done, but it took me years, it took me years from 18 on to do it. I probably wouldn't have moved to LA. I think LA is a very difficult place, even though I have great friends there and there's so many wonderful people there. I probably would have stayed in the Chicago area or go to New York and get into the artist scene and started making artistic movies earlier on instead of chasing the Hollywood traditional dream. I did wonderful acting classes in New York City, but it's interesting how I spent, I think, all those years trying to chase the commercial star, and becoming a star instead of developing my own artistic vision. And that didn't happen until I was in my 30s. So I would start right away. There are people at 18 that just know they're artists and they go and just start their artistic vision. So I think that I would have done, and repeating myself, I wouldn't have taken all that rejection personally.
Well, that's fascinating. Um, Thank you, Marcia, for coming on the podcast. It's remarkable everything you've done, everything you shared. I've really thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, I wish you nothing but the best, obviously, with the release and everything you're doing.
Well, thank you. And where are you based,
I'm
Nicholas?
in Sydney, Australia.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm mixing you up with the UK
No, that's all right.
accent.
No,
Okay,
that's
well,
all right.
I'm hoping the movie American Abroad will be in Australia. It's definitely on my list. When you have a small distributor, you have to work country by country, and you honestly, with a small distributor, you have to pay. So I was heading to work with the UK first. Do you know that I have been to, like I said, 50 countries? I have only flown in through Australia, going to New Zealand twice. So it's absolutely on my bucket list is to make it to Australia. Everybody, I heard it's like America in the national parks, and everybody that goes, exactly what happened this summer in Croatia was on my bucket list. I finally went. I was blown away. It was so clean. It was so pretty. They had bottled water and glass. The food was amazing. It was just a great experience that was different than the rest of Europe. Everybody has said this about Australia. Everybody that's gone, they're like, oh my God, it has everything. The people are the friendliest. They have the best wine, and it's just constant fun.
It's
Except
true.
for your COVID lockdown was worse than California's.
Yeah, I know. That was
Otherwise, I
tough.
heard, yeah, you definitely had some tough laws there. But I've just heard from so many people how amazing your country is. So I'm honored to be on the podcast, and thank you for letting me open my heart up. And I hope I inspire some people. Just never give up on whatever vision you have. You just never give up because your life will get better.
Well, you've already inspired me. So there we go. And yeah, I wish you nothing but the best. Incredible.
Oh, right back at you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Nicholas.
Thank you.
Okay.